to say that. So we're up to Siman Ches Sif Tesvov. Okay, interesting. Im Nofla Tallisay Shelo B'Mischaber. What happens if the tallis, your tallis falls off without intention, just slips off? And then you put the tallis back on. You've got to make a new bracha. That's if the whole thing falls off. If the whole thing doesn't fall off, even if the majority falls off, now this is not such a well-known halacha, I don't think. But we'll paskin like this, that if your tallis falls off by mistake, that's considered a hefsek, and when you put it back on, even if it's 3 seconds later, it needs a bracha. So let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Shalom mischaben. Afil lemad paskinan de beheisir talisay al das lachzira ein tzorech levarich. We said yesterday that if you take your tallis off, for example, you go to the bathroom, or even if there's a little bit of a longer gap, you don't make a bracha. This is worse. Because this, your tallis slipped off without you knowing about it. And your mitzvah is gone. And even if you're wearing a tallis cotton, it doesn't help. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Sikot Mem, even if you put it on straight away, what happens if it falls off in the middle of Shemona Esrei? So the Shemona Esrei and your tallis falls off, and other people put it on for you. Why do you think he says that? Because the halacha, you shouldn't really put it on yourself. So if you, in the note 58, he says, if your tallis falls off in the middle of Shemona Esrei, that's considered a hefsek, and you shouldn't put it back on. And if you were naughty and you did it and you put it back on, you just, you sort it out afterwards.
Can you pick it up? Can you pick it up from the floor?
It seems not. That's considered a hefsek. So therefore, the Mishnah Berurah is very meduyuk in what he says, that other people put it back on you. That's exactly the point. So anyway, so im nafel memenu be'emsa tefillas yutches vehechziru achrei malov, k'shesayim tefillas yutches yimashmish b'tzitzis v'yivarech. You then sort of you agitate it, you move it around a little bit, and you make the bracha. In 59, he says, what about tefillin? He says, tefillin shenishmetu mimkaimon be'emsa tefillah. Let's say sometimes that happens, you haven't put it on tight enough, and the whole thing just unravels. So he said, and then the whole tefillin actually falls away from where it's placed. So he says in 59, Koster lekamon in Siman Chafhei b'shem Ashla she'ein noagin levarech k'shemeshivin esam mimkaimon. When you put the tefillin back in its correct place, you don't make a new bracha then. So what's the chiluk? Mishum shebeshas hatefillah ein choshev kehesach hadas v'harizeh cholson al manas lachziron. Because that's not considered a significant hesach hadas. Mashenkin, taking your tefillin, your tallis, and putting it back on, that would be a hefsek, and one shouldn't do that. Okay, now, so your tallis falls off. So says the Mishnah, says the Mechaber, that when you put it back on, even if it's a second later, you've got to make a new bracha. Alpha pisha nofla ruba. Now he says in Sif Mem Aleph, the Mishnah says, Hataz ve'elirabba cholkin al zeh. The Taz and the Elirabba argue with this. V'gam agrom et sadeh l'divrei Hataz. What do they say? So the Taz says that even if nofla ruba, tzorich lachsav levarich. That means your tallis slips and it's not totally on the floor, but the majority of it has fallen off you. Even then, you need to make a bracha. But says the Mishnah Berurah, "L'kula al me'nafel me'al kol haguf." If it totally falls off, even though you sort of catch it and it's on the floor, but you still, shenisharis biyodei, that you grabbed onto it, but it's on the floor, but you're still holding onto it. In that situation, tzorich levarich. The ozdala mitzvah. So once it's off you, your mitzvah has gone. She'ika mitzvahs ituf hu baguf. Because the ikka mitzvah of tallis is actually for it to be wrapped around your body, and once it slipped off, there's been a hesach hadas, and therefore you need to make a new bracha. Now, continues the Mishnah Berurah, in beirach ala tallis v'nafel miyada kodim shnis atif. What about you make a bracha on your tallis, and it slips, it falls before you've even wrapped it around you. V'higbiya v'lovsha, and then you pick it up to put it back on. Ein tzarich levarach shenis. Then in that situation, you don't need to make a second bracha. V'afilu nifselu al sitz Yosef. Even if, let's say, for example, you make the bracha and you look at the tzitzis, and suddenly the tzitzis, you notice they're possible, and you quickly fix them up, you tighten them, or whatever it is. Ein tzarich levarach shenis. In that situation, you don't need to make a second bracha. Why? Because you haven't been mesiach das. You haven't been mesiach das, and therefore you haven't yet performed the mitzvah, and that's not considered the hesach hadas. In note 60, he says that the reason is because the tikkun itself is minyan mitzvah, and it's not considered the hefsek. In the same way as the bread, we keep giving that example. You ask for the salt or something within your be'isa inyan, that's not considered the hefsek. So if you put the tallis on, and before you actually you notice the tzitzis are problematic, and you masakin it and you fix them up, that's not considered the hefsek, and you just carry on putting it on. You don't need to make a new bracha. Okay, carrying on the Mishnah Berurah. For Kamoi B'Tfilin, just at the last few lines there of Mem Aleph, Kamoi B'Tfilin comes in Chafei Sif Yud Beis Ayin Shom B'Taz Sif Koton Yud Beis. Umisha Lokach Tallis this Atzif Boy V'Hischel V'Rachalov. Someone takes a tallis and he makes a bracha and he's about to put it on. For Kodim Sh'Sim HaBracha Lokchuhu Mimenu, and for some reason it's taken away from him. Utfilin Lefonov, and his tefillin are in front of him. And he started saying the bracha. Yochel l'sayim habracha asher kitshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivonu lo'niach tefillin v'yotze b'zeh. So you started off the bracha for tallis. For some reason, someone took your tallis, and your quick thinking, your tefillin are there. You can quickly take the tefillin and put them on, and you finish off the bracha l'shem the tefillin. That's a big chiddush, right? V'halakat siman kufn gimel arsa zachayin hiskim imay lahalacha. Interestingly, in footnote 61, there is a difference between that and eating food. So in 61 it says, you imagine you've got some grapes and you've got an apple. So you're eating the grapes, and then you pick up the apple, and you start Baruch Atah Hashem, and you realize, oh boy, I don't need to make a bracha, because the bracha made on the grapes. I've been yotze. So then, Das Hagon and Yosef Shalom El Yashiv, you can't suddenly switch to another bracha of a banana that's there that wasn't cut, or whatever, something else that was there. The reason is it's different to what we said over here, where if you make the bracha on the tallis and it's taken away from you and you quickly change and you make a bracha on the tefillin, there, in our situation, you're mechuyev to put on the tefillin. You're not mechuyev to eat the other fruit. So therefore, that would be the difference. Okay. Halacha tezayin. Halon b'talisei b'layla. If a person, for whatever reason, slept in his tzitzis all night, it sometimes happens. Tzarich levarich olav b'boiker afim lo pashta. Even though, like for example, you're on a plane all night, or whatever it may be, you're traveling, or whatever, you just crashed and you go to bed, you haven't got undressed. Even though you're not taking them off and putting them back on again, then you still make a bracha in the morning. Again, you just move them around a little bit before the bracha. So too a person gets dressed early in the morning before Alos HaShachar, a person's got the same issue. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Mishnah Membes, the Kaimelon, Laila Lav Zman Sitzishu Vahav Hefsek. What's the rationale? Why do you make a new bracha in the morning, even though you haven't taken them off and put them on again? Because the very night itself is considered a hefsek. Because Laila is Lav's man tzitzis, and therefore is considered a hefsek. V'yesh cholkin b'zeh, kim d'chsus yoyim chayiv af b'layla. Because they said, some are of the opinion, that tzitzis have the status of a ksus yoyim. This is not pajamas, this is not something you wear at night time, and therefore, even ksus yoyim chayiv af b'layla, they are chayiv even at night time. The das mixas poskim, according to some, or chadrakam b'sim yutches. The sofik brachas lahakal. Mikol makom, and that's what we would do. If we would wear a talis gadol in shul, then we just have in mind to be motzi the tzitzis that we were, that is ambiguous, that is not clear what the situation is, and to just be motzi the tzitzis cotton. That's only if you haven't taken it off. But if you take it off, with not the intention to put on straight away, but just to wait a little bit, then everyone would agree that when you eventually put it back on, that you would make a new bracha. But then people wouldn't recommend this, because some who say you're potter from this bracha, then it will be a bracha she'in tzricha. Okay, now here comes interesting halacha. What if you sleep during the day? What's the story with tzitzis there? So it says in the Mishnah Berurah, Hayoshen Bayoim, if a person sleeps in the day, Shnas Hasorayim, or Meisir Me'olav Hatalis Hakotten, and he takes his tzitzis off before he gets into bed. Yesh Deos ben Aposkim Imzeh Bichlal Hesach Hadas. There's a debate amongst the poskim if this is considered a Hesach Hadas. Okay. Now Nochon Shal Kol Ponim Yechasebo B'Shas Hashena. It's preferable to at least cover yourself with the tzitzis. Some people put them over the covers, over the duvet. In that situation, if you would put the tzitzis, you see that in yeshiva sometimes the boys they take their tzitzis and they put it on the bed itself. When they're when they're under the covers, they put the tzitzis on top of the bed, because then the kula alma you wouldn't need to make a bracha. In note 66, he says that doesn't work according to everyone, because ladas hamardachai ein chiyuv tzitzis bekisu v'alal aguf. The chiyuv of the tzitzis is on your body, and el Orach b'derech levisha b'vad only when you're properly wearing it, and therefore lechor lo sol etzazu, to spread the tzitzis on top of the bed wouldn't help. But that's what the Mishnah Berurah does recommend. That would be the preferable thing to do. Let's just finish off with Simon. Yud Zayin. Nischase babeged shel chayiv b'tzitzis v'lo hitzel b'tzitzis. If a person is wearing a beged that is mechuyev in tzitzis, i.e., it's a four-cornered garment, and he has not put tzitzis on them, bittul mitzvah saseh. That is considered a bittul mitzvah saseh, says the Mishnah Berurah. The last line, to tzitzis chayvas gavra le'inzeh. Tzitzis is a din in the gavra, and in the person, not in the chefs, in the actual beged. She'nischase b'talis oz chal alav achiyuv. As soon as you're wearing the talis, that's what triggers the chiyuv. And if you're wearing this beged without wearing tzitzis, then it will be considered a mitzvah, the bittul mitzvah saseh. Okay, we'll leave it there. Mr. Shem will start Simon test tomorrow.
So if the talis falls off, it's completely